The ground type in Pokemon is one that is seriously underrated. No matter what generation you play, ground types will be among the best Pokemon in the game. But how do they fare in one of the hardest vanilla games to Nuzlocke? In Pokemon Legends Arceus, every single battle feels like a boss. Things can go so wrong that opponents could hit you 3 times in a row. But that's alright, because the game actually gives you plenty of opportunities to play around that. Normal Nuzlocke rules apply, as I'll only be catching one ground type per named location, and I'll be using level caps. These will largely be based off of the noble Pokemon from each zone, but that's the least of my worries right now. In the Obsidian Fieldlands, the first greater location, the only ground type that I can obtain is Crud the Geodude. He'd normally make a great starter with his massive defense stat, but our very first battle pits us up against an Alpha Kricketune. Yeah, are you guys quaking in your boots yet? Well, I am, because this 8'2" insect gets the first hit and uses Strong Style Absorb. Little Crud didn't stand a chance. Now, meeting Arceus and getting acclimated in the town full of wonderful characters is nice and all, but getting to this first battle took 2 hours. Instead of restarting, I just used the same Crud. I would get a new one, but EVs and IVs aren't a thing in this game. The only real difference is the grit level that could be grinded. More on that soon. I feel like I should at least test this game's AI while it's still early though. Will the Kricketune always go for the kill? Or is it more random and they don't know any better? After a backstrike is ignored completely, Crud inevitably falls the same way. Alright, cool. The AI always knows when to be hyper-offensive. New plan. When you release caught Pokemon in this game, you get Grit items. Grit is this game's replacement for EVs, meaning that you need to catch strong Pokemon and release them to boost your remaining Pokemon stats. But what I didn't know was that the released Pokemon have to be at least level 10 to get Grit Dust. My first bunch of Pokemon are released for no reason. After plenty of catching and plenty of shoving Grit into Crud's mouth, his stats all get boosted. The max Grit level is 10, and while I don't get to level 10 and cheese these fights or anything like that, the buffs still help out a lot. Yet even with this help, attempts 3 and 4 end up the same way. It isn't until attempt 5 with these stats that things start turning around. Alrighty Crud, I need you to lock in now cause I am tired of wiping to a Kricketune. They lead with Absorb as usual, but Standard Style doesn't even do half now. When Crud uses an Agile Style rollout, he's safe to follow up with a second one. Luckily we don't miss, and now the fixated Strong Style hit cleanly takes them out and finally lets us move on. Crud popped off here, but unfortunately our good times don't last. We immediately run into another unstoppable force. Goomy. And even though we float and they slither, they're faster and land the first hit of Bubble. Between Bulldoze and Agile Style rollout, it doesn't matter. Nothing lets us move fast enough to attack twice. I try to step in myself, but alas, it does nothing. All we could do is a Strong Style attack and hope for the best. And we just barely miss the kill. Why does every battle counter Crud so well? The crazy part here is that we still have a Glaceon we have to fight after this. I catch a few dozen additional Pokemon after the Alpha Kricketune fight, and my Pokedex gets raised all the way to rank 3. This unlocks some really good move tutor moves that I was unaware of, and Crud quickly becomes as prepared as he'll ever be. Goomy's Bubble still does sizable damage to us on attempt 6, but in return, Crud unleashes his new Rock Slide. Being stronger than Strong Style Rollout, this is more than enough to get the kill. Thank goodness he only has one Pokemon. Irida is next in line. Of course, she outspeeds and lands an Icy Wind that immediately puts us in the red and activates a Frostbite, which is like an Ice-type burn. Our super effective Rock Slide lands in return and knocks them out before the Frostbite can finish us off. Crud and I finally got a run on our hands. When it comes to the Frenzied Noble Pokemon, to keep them relevant, I added a rule that I'll have to battle them at least once if I can. Crud unfortunately overleveled from the previous 2 battles, but there's another rule that still keeps him in mind. If I die, instead of the run ending outright, a random Pokemon on my team will jump in and save me from the final hit, sacrificing themselves in the process. That only leaves Crud in this case, so if I die here, then that will be a wipe. But I've got 500 hours in Elden Ring. Kleavor is nothing compared to Melania. For the majority of the battle, Kleavor charges forward and just collides into the center tree. I'm given plenty of opportunities to spam the bombs as a result, until he catches on and uses Aerial Ace to pass the tree and catch me off guard with a double hit. But being the first of the Frenzied Nobles, his attacks are telegraphed years in advance, so it's only a matter of time before I finally quell his rage. Of course, my character freezes and gets hit by the final attack at the end, so it wasn't hitless. But hey, I've got like 500 hours in Elden Ring. I've got nothing to prove. We're finally out of early game hell, and it only took 5.5 hours. Crud put in more work than should have ever been asked of a Geodude. But from here on, I'm hitting the save button. Any further wipes means that I'll be starting over from the very beginning. And I like this game, but not that much. Akari wants to battle before we advance, and aside from the Mime Jr. doing way more damage than a Mime Jr. should ever do, Crud is safe to knock out both Pokemon with a single attack. See guys, Geodude is so good in the early game. The Crimson Mylands are where we're going to be rounding up most of the team. Yeah, a team! How exciting! First is Burmy. We could have got Burmy before, but it only evolved with the Grass Cloak. Grime will instead be evolving into... oh, Mothim. The real Grime will be evolving into the Sandy Cloak Wormadam. Then we get Filth the Onyx, a Pokemon I'm super excited to use. Mud the Hippopotas, who is a solid Pokemon all around. Bog the Barboach is a little aggressive, but eventually comes around. And finally, Dross the Rhyhorn. He's pretty cool, but it'll be tough living up to Crud's standards. Aw, look Crud! We've got a family now! While catching Pokemon to rank up the decks, a space-time distortion appears in the distance. I love these things, they're so cool. I investigate in hopes of finding a metal coat to evolve Filth, but no luck. To be honest, we don't truly need it yet anyways. Volo has only a Togepi and Gibble, and while they may have gotten Filth pretty low, he turns out to be more than enough as is. The same goes for my first fight against the Misfortune Sisters. Toxicroak is thankfully the only Pokemon that I'm facing, so after Grime weakens them with a Struggle Bug, her Earth Power does crazy damage and finishes them off. But Ursaluna is where I become uncertain again. She's a ground type, one of the best types in the game! Crud evolves right before in preparation, but this Grizzly's still gonna be a problem for my not fully evolves. And Grime. But Grime is surprisingly handy for this part of the game. Just like their lead Baby Doll Eyes, our Struggle Bug lowers both offensive stats of Ursaluna. We use the Strong Style here so that the debuff will last a little longer, as the stat changes don't last the whole fight. After taking a slash, I switch to Mud. He eats the play rough really well, and retaliates with Water Pulse. I'm not sure if the rain actually boosts water moves in this game, because after we take a Baby Doll Eyes, I check the battle menu and it says that the rain just weakens fire moves. I don't know. Anyways, we trade a couple more hits, while the debuff wears off on the Ursa. We've still got our debuff, so Filth takes the field. I did this in hopes of getting the knockout with a Strong Style Bulldoze. And thankfully, it does the trick. I know a lot of people have strong opinions about the battle system in this game, but 3 years later, I'm still a fan. Don't put it in PvP though. Bog didn't get to contribute to the fight like I thought she would, but she still gets inspired and evolves with the new level cap. The next boss is Lilligant, however, so she won't be contributing. In time, dear Bog. In time. Noble Lilligant is yet another boss with a good matchup into ground types. Game Freak really did everything in their power to make us look bad, huh? Well, I'm not worried. After crushing more and more Pokemon into dust for my team, we head on in. Lilligant mostly only spams Axe Kick for the fight. As she keeps missing, she gets more and more tired until I finally send out Grime. We're immediately hit with a Poison Powder, but Grime still has a little bit of her Mothim genes and is able to comfortably use Strong Style Gust. It's 4 times effective and just misses out on the kill. Lilligant returns the favor with an Agile Style and a Normal Style Energy Ball. I expected to lose Grime then and there, but she holds it together and another Strong Style Gust takes Lilligant out. After chucking my bombs and getting her low enough, Lilligant eventually starts throwing out Petal Dance while also using Axe Kick. It makes it harder for me to throw the bombs as frequently, but before long, she gets tired once again, and we stomp out the Frenzy. Honestly, it's a fun fight. I just wish there were 1 or 2 more attacks. We can move on to the Cobalt Coastlands now, but first, I've got to have one last go around to the swamp to pick up 2 more buddies. Slime the Turtwig and Scum the Teddiursa could have both been added to the team by now, but they wouldn't have been ground types just yet. Fortunately, with the new level cap, it doesn't take much, and they each reach their final forms before I know it. Look at them! That's the squad! While I have my rematch against Irida, I'd like to suggest liking and subscribing if you aren't already. It helps out the channel a whole lot. By the way, what's your guys' favorite ground type? There are so many bangers like Nidoking, Torterra, and Krookodile that it's hard for me to pick just one. Anyways, I continue some story beats with Polina, but before getting too invested, I prioritize my community service. I'd been through many space-time distortions by this point. I'm pretty much a pro. But the only evolution item of note that I got was the Protector, which I can't use till later. So instead, I focused on cleaning up the bloodied remains of previous players, which earns me merit points. Once I finally get 1,000, I can use them to outright purchase the metal coat. Don't get me wrong, Filth is perfect as he is, but the steel typing is going to be crucial for the upcoming fights. Specifically for the Misfortune Sisters. They abduct an alleged noble in training, and I'll have to battle all 3 of them in order to get him back. This battle will be pretty difficult, to be honest. But first, there's one more member that I could add to the team. And oh, look at her! Muck the Shellos approaches me and makes sure it's a critical capture when I throw the ball. What a loving little creature! She too evolves, and we make our way to Firespit Island. I'm not gonna lie, even though this fight is scary, I was a little too confident by this stage. Torterra and Ursaluna are top tier when it comes to playthroughs, and Gastrodon is a world champion Pokemon many times over. The only problem is that the sisters lead with Abomasnow, and this Pokemon pretty much hard counters my whole team. It was pivotal that Filth evolved for this fight, but to my surprise, Abomasnow was packing so much of a punch that Energy Ball still does almost half. Knocking them out with a single Iron Head is easy enough, but the next fight starts right away and the Toxicroak hits Filth with a strong style Mud Bomb. And being super effective, it finishes Filth off. Man, that sucks. I was super excited to use Filth. Well, good job, buddy. Couldn't have got here without you. Bog takes his place and gets revenge with an Earth Power, but it's not over yet. The last sister has 2 Pokemon, and Crud is now leading against Rhyhorn. I didn't even consider Filth dying, and Crud happened to be up next. Instead of risking my starter Pokemon, Slime switches in without getting hit, and Leaf Blades them into oblivion. Gengar lands a quick Venoshock in retaliation, but it only does maybe a third before they get taken out just as easily with Bulldoze. During our battle, the little Growlithe, who was really meant to be the noble, swam across the ocean to save his friend. When he finally arrives, he evolves and scares away the sisters. Could have used that a minute earlier. But quickly becomes frenzied. Pretty soon, I'm the only one who can take him on. And fortunately for me, he's 4 times weak to ground. And I'm still nervous. This fight felt like a massive jump in difficulty when I first played the game in 2022. And after returning, after 500 hours of Elden Ring, I think that still holds true. Hisuian Arcanine is aggressive, and the narrow land I'm fighting on makes this even worse. But that usually doesn't become a problem until Phase 2. For the most part, I just have to dodge a few Raging Furies, and then it's time to battle. Scum tanks her own Raging Fury when she's sent out, and her standard Bulldoze is more than enough on its own to give me a massive opening to throw bombs. Phase 2 begins shortly after, and Arcanine marks the center of the arena with Fire Spin, functionally locking me to this tiny quadrant. The Fire Spin hits me as I get ready and mess up a dodge to get hit by my first Raging Fury. Once he gets close again, I become sandwiched and panic roll a little too early and get hit again. Now I'm in the red. I'm one shot away from dying. The Gargantuan Beast resets and charges into my quadrant one more time. He gets ready to charge, and an invisible wall curves my dodge in towards the attack. I'm hit. As I said before, this isn't the end of the run, but one of my beloved Pokemon will jump in to take my place. And the one to sacrifice themself is Muck. She just joined the team, but we formed such a strong bond right away that she couldn't bear to see me hurt. Muck jumps in right before I'm finished off, and we don't even get to say our goodbyes. With tears in my eyes, I chuck as many volcano bombs as I can, and in the second chance, I make sure that this frenzy ends. Arcanine corners me yet again while charging up his strongest attack. I get as close as I can to the flames and throw the bombs as hard as I can. A few miss, but I land 5 of them just in time to tire him out. Bog steps up to battle even though she didn't need to, and avenges her fallen aquatic sister by landing a massive earth power. I'm able to land the final bomb as a result, and Arcanine calms down. Every single time I start a Nuzlocke lately, I think to myself, wouldn't it be cool if this was the first Deathless run? I guess I just have a little too much hubris. But honestly, losing Filth and Muck here this early hurts a lot more. They were really important for later fights, so we might be in trouble now. Mud at least gains some levels and fully evolves herself, And while we have a new zone with new team members on the horizon, we first need to have a battle against Adaman. I lead with the only Pokemon that I can, Slime. Adaman has a Leafeon and an Eevee on the field, and even though the Eevee is weaker, I have reason to believe that his Quick Attack affects the speed tiers in the same way that Bulldoze does. Meaning that Quick Attack wouldn't raise the user's speed turn, it would lower mine instead, leaving Slime on the receiving end of even more of Leafeon's hits. Call me crazy, but I target down the Eevee first, while the Leafeon hits Slime with a Calm Mind boosted Leaf Blade. We take the neutral damage fairly well, and return the favor with a Bulldoze Iron Head combo, but it's not hitting as hard as I'd like. We get hit by another Leaf Blade, and without Bulldoze speeding up our move order, I have no choice but to switch. Scum is my best bet here, and she in fact lives the boosted Leaf Blade on 37. That's pretty much won in this game. Well, with their buffs wearing off, Scum's Bulldoze Ice Punch combo does the trick, and I don't even want to know how close that was. The Coronet Highlands aren't quite as open as the previous zones were, to start. But while we trek through the path, we at least get to interact with everyone's favorite Pokemon character, Melly. Fun! And after some somber dialogue with Ingo, I could venture off the path and discover Stain, my new little Gibble. I waste no time, and an Ultra Ball makes her ours. Also, I'm not sure where I got it, but somewhere along the lines I found a linking cable, and used it to evolve Crud. He's now the strongest Golem in the region until further notice, and the first battle against Melly is over in no time. It's the battle against Ingo that was a problem. He's got 3 Pokemon of his own, making him the first real trainer battle in the game. His team isn't too scary, his level cap at least means Dross can fully evolve, but considering that his Pokemon will be ready to tag in and use super effective hits uncontested, this could be bad. Fortunately, he leads the fight with Macho, which is probably his least threatening Pokemon. Slime somehow outspeeds, and we try to gain momentum with Bulldoze, as usual. They use Double Edge right after, and that recoil damage makes Leaf Blade a sure kill move. Gliscor comes out and uses a Quick Attack comboed with an Aerial Ace, meaning if I don't want Slime to go down, I'll have to switch. I'm picky in my decision, because whoever knocks out the Gliscor will be answering to a super effective Tangela right after. I was hoping Tangela would get sent out instead of Gliscor, but now I switch to Scum. Things go well at first, with them missing a Mud Bomb, and while Ice Punch misses out on the kill, they just miss another one. Let's go! We finish them off, and Tangela enters the field using Stun Spore. It's not damage, so we'll take it. Scum then powers through the para and lands an agile Bulldoze, followed by a super effective Ice Punch. And Tangela lives. Because they hold on, an agile Energy Ball does massive damage. The strong style attack wasn't far behind, and Scum is wiped off the map for good. Of all things, a little Tangela and his little boots? Mud strong style crunches them for vengeance, but it's too little too late. Well, the gang's all here. Oh, Stain's attacking me too. Nothing's going my way. We're bleeding teammates. Fast. And this upcoming Noble is gonna show no mercy if I'm not careful. We could do a little bit of rebuilding by catching Meyer the Gligar, and it only takes a little bit of community service grinding to get the Razorfang to evolve him. And don't get me wrong, Gliscor is a phenomenal Pokemon, but Scum the Ursaluna was supposed to be one of my best. Losing her really removed the win from my sails, or whatever. No! He's already dead! I had completely forgotten that the Misfortune Sisters could jump you in this game, and while grinding, I ran into the scariest one. The Abomasnow girl attacks me and hits Grime with an Icicle Crash. Honestly, I was a little lucky because she was the only one on my team who could take the hit. We desperately struggle but good return, and somehow that debuff is just enough to let us hold on and escape with our lives. To add on to the terror, while catching Spheal, I run into a creature that I could only categorize as a skinwalker. Pokemon truly are terrifying creatures. And, you know, maybe I should put more respect on Grime's name, because after another quick and easy match against Melly, this time thanks to Dross, Grime is my check for the Frenzied Electrode. This guy is fairly tricky. Even though this area isn't tiny, it feels like it is with the aggression he shows. Throughout the whole match, he spams his Electro Balls and baby Electrodes. My goal is to find opportunities to throw bombs after gaining distance from the attacks. It works well enough at first, albeit slowly, until the Electrode goes for self-destruct. Because I don't stop moving, I'm able to barely escape and begin fighting him with Grime. Unfortunately, the lead Energy Ball gets a crit and lowers our defenses, so we won't be able to rely on Struggle Bug anymore. Instead, I use the all-reliable Slime, as he's eaten enough grit to have pretty decent special defense. The attack on the switch doesn't do much, but after our bulldoze, an energy ball lowers our defenses again. But when we use Strong Style, that's enough to take them out, leaving me a chance to spam more bombs. The Electrode is in shambles and continues to spam, but I've got 400 hours in Smash Bros. Ultimate. I know how to deal with spam. Pretty soon it's battle time again, and since we've healed and don't get crit, Grime can stay in and fight this time. Our own defense drop is counteracted by our Struggle Bug, weakening them, but only barely. The Agile style comboing with anything is so nasty, but Grime holds on and Bug Buzz does the trick. Another Gatling of bombs later, and the spam increases. I get sandwiched by Electro Balls and Energy Balls, and almost lose my footing. But after dodging one last self-destruct, I lock in and snipe the Electrode to end the frenzy. Who said this game was hard to Nuzlocke? One final zone remains, and that means we get one last battle against Akari. Fortunately, we recently acquired Meyer, and his access to Poison Jab means that Mr. Mime goes down fast. Sorry if he's got some pretty huge damage output, but Crud can do what he does best, and beat the crud out of the remaining Pokémon. I'd like to take this brief moment before things get really difficult to point out how nice my fit is right now. Also, I think my Pro Controller's beginning to get Joy-Con drift. The ice level. I know it's a video game trope to save these for last, but I always feel like they leave more to be desired. I kinda wish there was like an extra zone after the Alabaster Icelands, because most of my time spent here is grinding, not exploring. Maybe that's a me problem, I don't know. The very first thing I do here is find Dust the Swinub, another invaluable member, and he'll be used right away to challenge Garrick. But not before grinding for 2 hours and running into the scariest pillow swine I've ever seen. Fortunately, Garrick isn't scary, and his Pokemon are forced to eat Dust's dust and get outsped and one-shot before they know it. Another Warden battle awaits in the Snowpoint Temple, and with the seamless capture of the guarding Alpha Gallade, we're ready. This fight is normally another huge issue for Nuzlocks, but I have a particular little monster who's ready for anything. Sabi leads with not only a Rhyperior, but also an Electivire and Magmortar to back her up. But Bug is immune to all of Electivire's attacks, and she easily one-shots the main meanie. Yeah, nice try, Sabi. Both Magmortar and Electivire are quickly taken care of after. The Braviary, although a higher level, is handled just as easily by Crud. He's been around the block, and a strong style Rock Slide is plenty to make quick work of this Noble. Should I have counted these guys on the Noble count of the overlay? They're lounging! Look, Dust, it's your cousins! After plenty more grinding, I take on the 5th and final Noble. This fight had given me a lot of trouble in the past, but I did beat Dark Souls 2 one time. Immediately, every move in his repertoire is unleashed. Large bouts of Icy Winds, a flurry of Stone Edges, multiple Mountain Gales, as well as the last-ditch Ice Beam. All are for naught, and Dust is sent out yet again. This is his arena, not Avalug's, and the 4 times effective Iron Head sends them to the yellow, while Blizzard does nowhere near enough to us. Another one of Dust's Iron Heads opens them up for a Bomb Barrage. After many similar attack patterns, the Avalugg desperately tries to mix things up. But with another Ice Beam dodge, Dust comes to the rescue yet again. Even though I forgot to heal between rounds, I go unpunished as Avalugg just misses his attack. An onslaught of Bulldozes do the trick this time, and the final Frenzied Fiend is finally finished. All the nobles are quelled now, and I take this opportunity to rest in the bed that I forgot I owned. But this rest was short-lived. The rift above Mount Coronet grew in size, and the rest of the sky has become varying shades of less popular colors. Kamado, who had put his trust in me from the very beginning, begins to suspect me of coercion, manipulation, and maybe even murder. Who knows, why not? I like the drama. But I've been banished, and the townspeople who I grew to know and love begin to look at me with disdain. It hurts, but at least I still have my Pokemon. Slime isn't taking this very seriously. Volo attempts to steer me on the right path in my lowest hour. He may be a salesman, but he's been for me this entire time. He says I need to head to the 3 lakes of the region, where I'll face 3 challenges. If I'm successful, I'll get the tools I need to quell this rift in space-time. The first trial has Slime pit up against an Alpha Goodra. Shelter makes things tougher, and missing a sleep powder didn't help, but Slime pulls through. even if things cut close. The second trial consists of Mud versus the Alpha Zoroark. This one goes by a little smoother thanks to Mud's insane biting power. I'm pretty sure that Zoroark is double dead now. And finally, it's the long since evolved Stain taking on the Alpha Overquill. Garchomp is phenomenal in every game, but since evolving, Stain hasn't had the best matchups. Now, however, Overquill feels her wrath. After living Bulldoze, they reveal Ice Ball? Okay, if that didn't miss, I don't know what I'd do. I honestly don't know where to get info on this game sometimes. I thought they just had the level up moves. We may have passed the test by the skin of our teeth, but things are still escalating at the summit of Mount Coronet. Kamado has charged towards the breach in space-time, and I've got to stop him before he gets caught in it. He's not that guy, unfortunately. But there's one person in my way who is no joke. Benny has a handful of speedy Pokemon, ready to eliminate any unsuspecting victim. Unlucky for him, I am suspecting, and am ready with Mud to stomp out his lead Mismagius. Sneasler would go down just the same, but with Mud taking a close combat already, Meyer steps in and Bulldoze is a sure hit kill. Gardevoir gets one-shot by Poison Jab, and when Gallade racks up damage, I send in Stain to cleanly take them out with the super effective Shadow Claw. With Benny being a ninja and everything, I can't help but wonder if they were meant to have more action RPG elements in the battles at one point. Kamado is just now getting ready for his final move, and I seem to stop him just in time. We all convince him that I'm the guy, not him, but he still demands a battle to leave it up to fate. So be it, but his Braviary is nothing that Cred hasn't dealt with before. Somehow he lives our Rock Slide, but Esper Wing does very little, and we guarantee the knockout with Iron Head. Snorlax is tricky thanks to his bulk, but Slime has the perfect answer to them with Sleep Powder. In this game, instead of falling asleep, you become drowsy. There's a chance that you don't attack, like Paralysis, and while you could still attack, you take more damage from other attacks. With that, Slime takes them out 2 turns later. The second strongest Golem in the region is cleanly one-shot, and Clefairy sets up Calm Mind frame 1. Instead of risking shenanigans, Bog tags in as my best specially defensive wall. They're very bulky themselves, but with our Ice Beam immediately activating a Frostbite, it was only a matter of time before they were defeated. GG's Kamado. Should have used more ground types. But Kamado wasn't the real boss fight up here, and we knew that. A portal appears before us, and the reward from the 3 lake trials activates, restraining the newly appeared Dialga. Dialga is no pushover, however, and immediately unleashes a roar of time. Bog just may be the devourer of gods though, as she takes the hit like it was nothing, and returns their damage with a solid earth power. The Dialga couldn't take it anymore, and immediately takes shelter in my Pokeball. Turn 1. But it turns out that Dialga wasn't the only Pokegod waiting at the summit. Palkia also makes their grand entrance, and this time, I don't have the red chain. We're forced to temporarily retreat, and find a new way to calm it down, with our quest bringing us to acquire Origin Ore and make a special Pokeball. Of course, the Misfortune Sisters block our way one final time. Stain makes quick work of them, as we have no time to waste, and we take a moment to regroup before heading back to Spear Pillar. Well, I guess it's not Spear Pillar just yet. Oh, well there we go! Spear Pillar! Dialga, now on our side, tries to cancel out Palkia's transformation, but it's too late. They fully transform into the best dragon type ever designed, and it's my job alone to stop them. I came prepared to battle, but this space god does not get tired out. You'd think that would almost trivialize this fight, but after getting hit by a Twister and dodging my fair share of Draco Meteors, I noticed something. I am not recovering from these hits. For most of the run, as long as I played defensively, I healed naturally over the course of the fight, but not anymore. The damage is permanent, and I need to focus up. But I've learned the pattern of Draco Meteor by this point, and hang on just long enough for me to hit the final ball. After Palkia falls to their little horse knees, and I catch them with the Origin Ball, the sky returns to its higher resolution. But I still can't shake the feeling that something else is lingering. After the credits roll at the worst possible time in any Pokemon game ever, Volo agrees about that last lingering thing. I set out on one final quest with my glorious ground types and collect the final plates. For the most part, I've mastered the hit them with sticky globs and backshot them with Gigaton Balls combo, and use that exact strategy to capture every last legendary plate-holding Pokemon. The problem is that Regigigas turns out to be a mandatory battle, just like the Alpha Kricketune at the beginning. I can't use any of my newfound skill to finesse this fight, and I have to catch them the old-fashioned way. Regigigas does massive damage, especially after their slow start is over. In a classic Pokemon fashion, it gets to the point where all I could do is chuck Pokeballs. And with my lack of luck, Meyer is vaporized by a critical hit Giga Impact. My whole team is bleeding out, and Slime could very well be next. But just in time, the Regi is finally caught. In a way, the casualties were kept to a minimum, but Meyer will truly be missed. The final plate holder ends up being Kamado, but his team is largely the same, and aside from the addition of a Heracross, he's handled pretty quickly. This is the very last bit of respite that we'll be getting for the entire game, because it's time we return to the summit. We've had a great run up through this point. My team is really well rounded, and even with our many losses, I have nothing but faith in them and what they can accomplish. But this is one of the hardest boss fights in the series, and making it out with everyone alive is an impossible task. We've mastered each and every one of our moves thanks to the Seeds of Mastery, and we've eaten more grit than I can count. But that will be far from enough. We finally meet up with Volo, where he finally reveals his true colors. He's here to gain absolute power and favor from the remaining Pokegods, and now I'm the only one who even stands a chance at stopping him. Just like his modern counterpart, he leads the final battle with Spiritomb, a Pokemon with no weaknesses when it comes to my team. Bog leads the fight with Mud Bomb in hopes of obscuring their attacks, but get hit by a Dark Pulse regardless. We shake it off and attempt to finish them with an Earth Power, but they hang in there on 1 HP. Volo spends his turn healing, so we get the chance to attack twice with Earth Power, taking them out. My heart sinks as Roserade is the one to enter next, and they immediately use an agile style Petal Dance, followed up by a standard style. I fully expect to lose Bog here, but by some miracle, she manages to dodge the second hit. You go, girl. Slime switches in to save the day with a critical Bulldoze, quickly bringing in Arcanine. Raging Fury does do great damage, but they never stood a chance against Mud and his high horsepower. Ah yes, my favorite horse Pokemon. Lucario only uses Bulk Up on his entrance, but since we're still at full health, I feel safe to stay in and use high horsepower once again. It would have been nice if it landed, but after their defense drops from their own use of close combat, Mud powers through and gets another kill with high horsepower. I'd like to believe that crit didn't matter. Togekiss seeks revenge, and her Moonblast crits us back. Switching to Dust by Mamoswine would be nice, but I can't afford to have her take damage from the upcoming Garchomp. Mud stays in, and finishes strong with an Iron Head that somehow still doesn't kill. We live the next Moonblast, but the Agile Style Special makes sure that Mud is taken out regardless. Great job, buddy. Like I said, I really need to preserve Dust, and the same goes for Stain. Because the Togekiss just landed 2 attacks, I know for a fact that Slime will be able to get a hit in. And upon re-entry, his Agile Iron Head safely finishes them off. I'm still pretty sure that speed tier altering moves only affect the target rather than the user, but there was still a chance that Slime wouldn't get hit by Garchomp, and I had to take it. Fortunately, he still takes their entry attack like a champ, which ends up giving Slime the chance to hit them back hard with a strong style Outrage. Volo is defeated, but this battle is not over yet. Giratina seems to align with Volo's ambition, and seems to seek out destruction of their own. Once again, it's all up to me, and I don't get a breather. I have no idea why, but Dust takes the field when the time comes. If it was Slime instead, like I thought it would be, then he surely would have gone down. But Dust pays the price for being the hero, and eats an Aura Sphere before anything else. In retaliation, he somehow manages a 3-peat. Ice Shard, and Icicle Crash all hit before Giratina even hopes of fighting back. But once they do, their Aura Sphere crits and ends Dust's heroism then and there. Stain finally gets to enter the field and finishes them off with a vengeful Dragon Claw that crits. But the Giratina's ambition locks them in, and Stain's work isn't done yet. She eats the Origin Form's Dragon Claw relatively well, but I know we won't be living any Agile style combos from here. We do what we can and use Outrage. And it looks like even a strong style wouldn't have gotten close to doing the job. They skip the Agile style altogether and hit Stain with a strong style Dragon Claw, depleting all of her health and then some. Things are very quickly getting dire, but I still have one more Pokemon who's unscathed. I don't know if we have the firepower that we need, but Crud has gone through more than any other in this game. I intend to finish this the way I started it, with Crud clutching up and landing her Rock Slide. A second turn is still available to us, and once they're brought to the yellow, we use one last strong style with Stone Edge, defeating not only Volo and Giratina 2 times over, but also the entire game. Thank you all so much for watching today. I had planned on doing a Legends Arceus Nuzlocke for quite a while now, and dreaded it the entire time. I thought it'd be too much for my little brain, but once the run got off the ground, I had a great time. And 33 hours later, I won! It was a total coincidence that I recorded it during the 3-year anniversary too. I won't be Nuzlocking my first playthrough of Legends Z to A, but I'm sure it'll be just as satisfying once I do. I'm so looking forward to that game. If you guys enjoyed the video today, then please leave a like, comment, and maybe even a subscribe to let YouTube know that you liked it. What are you looking forward to from Z to A? Who was the MVP of the run? It's so crazy to me that Wormadam did so much more work than Ursaluna. Anyways, that's all I got today. Thank you again so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and have a good one.